Masquera saying Zimbabwe, welcome to our channels in confessions and deep secrets. Kanakari kutanga kukuya paneno channel, please don't forget to subscribe. Kana subscriber, don't forget to comment and share this video. Nasi muri Zimbabwe tabigirai nyaya buditswa ni a South African newspaper, the Daily Maverick ya Buda chitaura iyo ichiri Sadc election report ni yakasiya President Mnangagwa Panguva Yakaoma. The one option Sara na Mnangagwa is only to reform terrorism. Just a few presidents vakakwanisa ku attend the inauguration ya President Mnangagwa wakabuda zvakare vachitaura vachiti Mnangagwa Angosara and more options mashomanana, and that's why he's pushing for the Sadc summit kuti isawanikwe boycottwa nemamwe Sadc leaders. Since the moment yachangwa attend this Sadc summit, it means kuti approve president wa Mnangagwa. Labuda the Daily Maverick was the refusal of most Sadc heads of state to support Mnangagwa's inauguration in the absence of all three presidents in the Sadc Troika follows the unprecedented condemnation of the elections by the body's observer mission. As the crowds of press-gang supporters split into Zimbabwe's National Sports Stadium for President Mnangagwa's inauguration ceremony on Monday, 4 September 2023, one group of guests was conspicuous by its absence. And of the 16 presidents of the Southern African Development Community, only 3, South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, Mozambique's Filipe Nyusi, and DRC's Felix Tshisekedi, bothered to attend. From the 51 remaining African countries, not one head of state was present, represented instead by ambassadors and junior ministers. This snub is a damning indictment of illegitimacy of Zimbabwe's much derided elections and will be harshly felt by Mnangagwa. It is one thing for his regime to have been condemned and sanctioned by the West, but entirely another to be abandoned by fellow African leaders. The president has been forced to scramble around for support. Former Zambian President Edgar Lungu made a rare public appearance at the inauguration at Mnangagwa's last-minute invitation, but this matters little when Zambia's current president, Hakainde Hichilema, has refused either to congratulate Mnangagwa or attend his inauguration, sending Foreign Affairs Minister Stanley Kakumbo off in his stead. Hichilema's cold shoulder is an important diplomatic signal. As chair of the Sadc organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation, his judgment carries great weight in the region. The refusal of most Sadc heads of state to support Mnangagwa's inauguration in the absence of all three presidents in the Sadc Troika follows the unprecedented condemnation of the elections by the body's observer mission. Dr. Nevis Mumba, appointed the head of mission by Hichilema, delivered the hammer blow to ZANU-PF's hope of publicly spinning these elections as anything other than deeply fraudulent. Sadc's preliminary report accused them of falling short of the requirements of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Electoral Act, and the Sadc principles and guidelines governing democratic elections. Since then, Mumbai has described the elections as the most fraudulent in the history of Sadc. Elections outright was a momentous and courageous break with tradition by Mumbai. The bloc has a history of rubber stamping Zimbabwe's deeply contested elections, but Mumbai and his team laid bare ZANU-PF and the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission long-running tactics to suppress turnout and manipulate the final vote count. These tactics included a refusal by ZEC to release a finalized voters' roll, changes to the constituency boundaries that smacked of gerrymandering, and the intimidation of voters by the ZANU-affiliated organization called FAZ, who placed menacing agents outside polling stations on election day. These grave concerns were echoed by all other major observer missions, including the African Union, European Union, the Commonwealth, and the Charter Center. They also condemned the arrest of around 40 observers from local NGOs on election night in a blatant attempt by the government to cover its tracks. The equipment used by the observers to conduct an independent parallel vote tabulation was seized in order to prevent its publication. On election day itself, what should have been 12 hours of voting turned into a marathon process spanning 2 days and nights. Dozens of polling stations, largely concentrated in opposition strongholds of Harare and Bulawayo, remained shut late into the night as they waited for ballot papers to arrive. ZAC's handling of the situation, according to SADC, cast doubts about the credibility of these electoral processes. As a blatant ploy of voter suppression, it was incredibly successful. National voter turnout fell to 69%, down from 85% in 2018 elections. The opposition Citizens Coalition for Change urban heartlands were the hardest yet, with turnout in Harare and Bulawayo falling by 19% and 25% respectively. Despite these exhaustive efforts, the Electoral Commission still struggled to secure a conclusive victory for Mnangagwa, announcing the result late on Saturday night. ZAC claimed that the president had won 52.6% of the vote, while the Citizens Coalition for Change, Nelson Chamisa, had just 44%. These results have been highly contested, and ZAC maintains its refusal to publish the result at polling station level. But even if these figures are accurate, they provide a pitiful return for such lengths of coercion, intimidation, and voter suppression. They also depict Mnangagwa, known as the crocodile, for his ruthless reputation, as less popular than his parliamentary party, a bad look for any autocrat looking to keep his job. Commentators in both Africa and West predicted with glum certainty that these elections would be conducted and concluded in much the same way as 5 years ago, but 2023 had not been a complete rerun of 2018. For the first time ever, SADC has declared an election within its bloc invalid. This is a major development for Zimbabwe and South Africa as a whole. That is not to say the next 5 years will not be a brutal struggle for millions of Zimbabweans toiling under a regime that consistently and violently disregards their basic human rights. Even since the election, opposition activists have reportedly been detained and tortured. However, the reactions of Zimbabwe's friends and neighbors offers hope. Mnangagwa can no longer pretend it's business as usual, while his fellow presidents give him the brush off. Meanwhile, international bodies like the Commonwealth and the African Development Bank will feel galvanized in their condemnation. AFDB has previously indicated that any hope of negotiating Zimbabwe's dates is contingent on democratic reforms. Likewise, Commonwealth heavyweights like the United Kingdom and Australia will feel less pressure to admit Zimbabwe, while their concerns are echoed by African nations. It also reflects a broader shift towards democracy in Southern Africa that has already been underway for several years. In 2019, Malawi's Constitutional Court nullified the country's fraudulent elections after widespread and credible reports of vote tampering. In Zambia, former President Edgar Lungu's abortive attempt to hold on to power following the 2021 elections was de-escalated with the help of former President Banda and the leader of the African Union Observer Mission, Ernest Garoma, former President of Sierra Leone. Outright sham elections are now increasingly rare in Southern Africa and even less rare tolerated. If Mnangagwa has any hope of re-engaging with his neighbor states, let alone rejoining Commonwealth or negotiating Zimbabwe's debt burden, fair elections will have to come first. By ensuring the region's outright condemnation, Hichilema and Mumba have fanned the flames of democratic reforms in Zimbabwe so high that even the crocodile himself will struggle to take the heat. The Daily Maverick muri Zimbabwe tingazotinona sei nyaya iyi is Mnangagwa going to reform kana kuti tudze zvamuri kufunga mu comment section.